My name is Casey Knuppe. We live in Underwood, South Dakota. It's about 20 miles east of Rapid City. My great-grandfather homesteaded in the area around 1910, I think. And my family's been here ever since. I have some uncles that still ranch in the area, and then my dad is involved here, and we've been involved in agriculture in this area ever since. I've really started to focus on the soil and the grass and how moving the cattle and how the way we graze affects that. My dad kind of started in on some of that stuff as far as cross fencing and different things, and I'm kind of going a little further. He quit pouring cattle long before I had a say in it. When we've kind of continued with that, it's good for the soil, and probably in the early 2000s, I started going to some classes and learning about the intensive grazing and soil and things, and that's really pushed me to want to try new things. Not that everything's a success, but I'm not afraid to try some things. And I think it's important to do those things because if we're going to bring the next generation on, we have to be profitable and our land has to be productive as we can make it. It's too expensive to buy land, so I want to try to be as productive as I can with what I have. I don't think quitting pouring was real noticeable. I think it's been an evolution over time. The stuff maybe doesn't get bred that doesn't adapt to some degree, and I think that it wasn't a big deal at the time. I don't think. It was just kind of maybe we had a few more open cows for a year or two. I don't remember. I think it's really important to try and be as efficient with our grazing as we can, and we've done a lot of cross fencing to the point where this last summer there wasn't much hay to put up, so I decided to go to daily moves with our yearlings, and I was really happy with it. I was able to summer a yearling for 3 months on 2 acres roughly by doing that, and they do well. There's something to giving them that fresh piece of grass every day. It keeps them content, and knock on wood, maybe I had a little less sickness, as far as foot rot and pink eye and things that I usually get in my yearlings. And moving them every day, I had that thought too, is what's this going to entail, what kind of time. But once we got kind of into it, and I did it this year because we had a poor hay crop, and I knew I'd have more time. But once you got into it, it's about 15 minutes of putting a fence up and taking a fence down. So even in drive time, even as far as getting over there, it's a couple miles over there, getting over there and back. Looking at, if I'm in a hurry, I can do it in 45 minutes, and so it's really not that big of a deal. And they do make bat latches, and there's some stuff that you can use to you can set the stuff up ahead of time and do it automatically and stuff. So as far as the work, from what I've seen production-wise and the amount of grazing that I got out of the land, it was well worth my time to do that. Logistics is the thing. It's not something you can do over your whole place, I don't think. I can't anyway. Water's definitely an issue, and the lay of the land too. The place where I was able to do this at is pretty flat. We had pipeline water, so it works there. It doesn't work everywhere, and there's sure pastures where we're in for a week or 10 days in a bigger pasture, and they drink out of dams and stuff. But I think it's important to try it in places where it works. Try it, see what happens, and then go from there. If you want to expand, then that's kind of up to you and what works for you, I guess. I've started calving later. I calve late April, close to the 1st of May, I think this year will be when we start calving. And it really works for me. It's so nice to calve when it's the days are longer, it's warmer, and there's close to green grass. It just works for me. And then to go into that too, then I also keep my calves longer. Then I don't sell till January or February. I'll sell steer calves, and in the last 2 years I've left the calves on the cows till then. And if I needed to feed hay, I fed hay or graze, and I've really been happy with that. Not that it would work for everybody, but it works for me, and I haven't seen a real huge negative effect in the cows from it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I calve late enough that they can they can get in shape to calve, and then they're in shape again to breed again. By the time, you know, middle of July rolls around to turn the bulls out, they lose a little condition in the wintertime when the calves are on, yeah, but it's nothing that they don't put back on before breeding time. So I really haven't had any trouble with conception rates or anything since doing it, and the calf health is phenomenal. I mean, when I wean calves in January, the number of calves that need to be doctored are very minimal, if any. So, you know, with the rotation and the soil health, I think you see a lot in recovery. You know, it might get dry and grass dries up, but it doesn't take, you know, you get a half inch of rain and things will green up and look better in a hurry. And also one thing with the rotation and the smaller pastures is I know it's so much easier to know how much grass I have left, you know, and so I can start making those decisions of when to get rid of things because, hey, this 80-acre piece lasted 5 days, you know, it makes it way easier to plan when you can see it, you know, with the daily moves or even the weekly moves. Planning is important. You know, I have an idea always in the spring where I'm going to go to begin with the cattle, and then just based on, you know, what kind of days of grazing I'm getting and things and the rain, I adapt my plan. I change things but it's easier to do knowing what you have and what you can look ahead to or whatever. So I don't spend a lot of time planning, but one thing I do try to do is not do the same thing every year. Start in a different place with the cattle every year and then start their rotation and maybe rotate the opposite way one year. And that's something that I guess I've just kind of picked up here recently, and even changing the stock densities and stuff in different areas every year is important, I guess. Trying to mimic the buffalo and be in places where they weren't in the same place every year. They were more in one place one year than the next. And I think that's trying to kind of mimic that, I guess, and see the benefits. You see just a response to the grasses quicker. You know, most of my ground I'm probably on, and I shouldn't say most, but probably half of it I'm only on for 5 to 10 days a year. And then, you know, it's got the rest of the year to recover. And having that time, it changes the plants that are there. It gives other plants opportunities to come in. You know, it does. It changes things. It's interesting to see. This year I did a little bit with the cows. I mean, I was up in that over 500,000 pounds per acre into some small areas, and I'm really curious to see what next year brings with that and what it'll do to the soil. Probably in the early 2000s, I went to a seminar down in Nebraska, and there were some, you know, Alan Savory was there, and there were some other guys that were doing some really intensive mob grazing, and I didn't even know who Alan Savory was. I read about it, and they said that you could double your stocking rates, and I thought, man, that sounds awesome. I want to learn how to do that. That's kind of what started me down that road, was listening to them guys and hearing them guys and seeing what they're doing and seeing the benefits that they're seeing, and that just kind of jump-started me. And I've been very slow to implement some of the stuff, but I try to continue to learn, I guess, and it takes time to get your mind wrapped around some of that stuff. It's kind of exciting to not do the same thing every year over and over. It's fun to see changes and to see benefits. Sometimes you go backwards, you make a mistake and go backwards, but you have to continue learning. It's easy to fall into that mindset that, you know, we've been here for a couple generations, you know, we know everything about ranching. There's nothing left to learn, but there's always something to learn, and you have to keep going. Yeah, and I started bale grazing probably, I don't know, between 5 and 10 years ago. I don't remember for sure. And I'll tell you the reason. The first year we did some of it was we had a tractor broke down, and so we couldn't run it for about a month because it was getting worked on, and so we started just setting bales out. We go out once a week and set some bales out, and then it turned into now I don't start a tractor maybe every 2 weeks, and I spend about 3 or 4 hours setting bales out. About 3 days worth in about 4 or 5 different pastures, and then all I do is go out and open a gate every few days and let them into the new piece. It's interesting to notice with the bale grazing, you can see a year, maybe 2 down the road, right where that bale sat. You know, this year where we were looking at with the first year residue, you know, there's a thick layer there, the grass is green, there's moisture underneath there. There's just a ton of benefits that come from that I don't think we even know, but it's obvious that it's doing something good. It's beyond me how it works, but it does some good things. So another thing that I've done, last year was the first year I did it. I planted a full season cover crop mix, like 10 species, on some old hay ground, and that I want to farm a little bit. And then I grazed it with my cows and calves in December to January last year. I think they were in there. Roughly, I got close to 60 animal days per acre, I think, off of that with the cows and calves, and I had everything out there. And things were good, they looked good. I didn't have to start a tractor at all. It was definitely something that I'm going to continue to try to do, I guess. It worked well. As far as getting started with the cover crops, this was totally new to me. I'd never done anything like this before. We used to farm some, kind of most everything planted back to grass, so a little experience with the farming, but this was just the same thing. I guess I went to some conferences, read some about it, and thought that's something I wanted to try. Millborn Seeds makes a mix. It's a grazing mix. I got the seed from them and sprayed a field and planted it. I planted it right at the end of May, first part of June last year. And then it was a full season, mostly Sudan grass, oats, sunflowers. I think there's 10 species in there, kale. Yeah, and then it was after. Ideally, I would have liked to have grazed it in the summer. We had enough moisture last year. I could have grazed it during the growing season, but I didn't have cattle around. So I waited till it was dormant in the fall, and then we turned cows in it in December, January. It doesn't look like much, but cattle do good on it, and they flesh up even with the calves on them. The cows stayed in good condition, and the calves did good. The daily moves this year has really sparked my interest in trying to push that more. I want to do more with my grazing and spend more time at it. Maybe haying might take a second place to grazing, I think, for the future for me. I'd much rather be doing that and then paying a fuel bill and paying for twine and stuff. If I can extend my grazing season and put up less hay, that's something that I really want to push towards. If my kids want to come back and things, I want them to maybe something that we could look at as multi-species stuff. Is there some other things that we could bring into the place that fits in with the cattle? I know people talk about sheep and goats. So if that's something that they want to do, that's kind of something that I would push for, is kind of the multi-species and seeing if we can see the benefits of that economically and environmentally. I think I did a good job of kind of starting to learn about this stuff, but to implement things, and it doesn't have to be on a big scale. I mean, I thought that right away, that we got to fence everything off and do everything, and that's not the case. Start small, but start doing things. And it might be, I might try something 1 year, and it might be 2 years, 3 years before I try something new. Yeah, I guess that would probably be the big thing I'd say is keep doing it. You kind of get back in the rhythm of doing other things, and keep pushing to try new things, I guess, would probably be the big thing, and learn. It's easy to sit around with everybody complain about things that are going wrong and I'm going broke than it is to try new things sometimes, and it's something you have to do, though. We need to bring another generation back to the place, whether it's my kids or somebody else's kids or whatever. And in order to do that, we have to have a profitable business, or they're not going to want to come back, and it has to be enjoyable. These are the things that I need to learn to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to get old and sell the place, I guess. You have to have that mindset of looking to the future. Otherwise, it's easy to do what you've done, and you get by and you pay the bills, and that's fine. But if we're going to have a future to this, we've got to learn. We've got to pass that knowledge on to our kids.